Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for Jedd Fisch and the Washington Huskies coming out of the transfer portal as former Mississippi State quarterback reaffirms his commitment to the Washington Huskies. And Dill, I'll start with this. Quarterbacks at the college level that have thrown for 12,000 yards, 94 touchdowns to only 28 interceptions, a 70% completion percentage. Those kind of quarterbacks do not grow on trees. And you talk about steadying the ship with a lot of moving parts with this Washington Huskies program, obviously a new coaching staff, going to the Big Ten. I don't know if you could find a better quarterback to lead this program into 2024 than Will Rogers. Really excited. Massive win for Jedd Fisch coming out of the transfer portal. I want to talk about two things. One, what Will Rogers brings to this Washington Huskies offense heading into 2024. More importantly, where Jedd Fisch is going, building this roster heading into that 2024 season. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a shout out to the Washington Husky fans. A program that we're going to be talking a lot about over the next couple of weeks and months as Jedd Fisch going to continue to build this roster. We promised you guys, we keep you guys as updated as possible with the Washington Huskies in the transfer portal. Cannot thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, going to kick this one off to you. Give you the T-box. What does Will Rogers bring to this Washington Huskies offense?
Just from a program perspective, I think you said it best. He gives you the chance to steady the ship and win games. Like when you have a quarterback in college football that's as good as he is and will play as productive as he is, you should be able to put yourself in position to win a lot of games. And again, I don't think the end-all be-all is how many games Jedd Fisch wins in year one, given the certain situation he's coming into. But you certainly don't want to be a doormat. You want to be as competitive as possible. And when you bring in a quarterback like Will Rogers, you put yourself in position to win a lot more games than I think people thought are probably going to think.
From a roster standpoint, Washington, they needed a quarterback very badly. And Will Rogers is that guy. And like addressing the narrative that Will Rogers was a product of the Mike Leach offense, from a production standpoint, yes, his numbers are somewhat inflated because he played in an air raid offense under Mike Leach for most of his career at Mississippi State. That doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback, right? You take a look, 12,000 yards, 94 touchdowns, a 70% completion percentage, very accurate with the football, does not make mistakes. That's winning football. And more importantly, and I think a thing that made Michael Penix so special in 2023 as well, and Bo Nix, you could probably throw this one in too. Will Rogers has 4 years of starting experience at the SEC level. He's seen a lot of football. He's been around the block. And what made Michael Penix so special in 2023 is his innate ability to get the ball out quick, know what defenses were doing. Will Rogers has that capability too because he's seen a lot of defenses. He's played a lot of football. So from an experience standpoint, from a winner's perspective, Will Rogers, like you said, going to allow this Washington program to win a lot of games in 2024. And Bill, getting into
also a guy they needed, like Jedd Fisch needs a quarterback who can make really good decisions, get the ball out on time, avoid making bad. That's just like what he's done. So you talk like Mike Leach needed that. He needed a guy who was very accurate, got the ball out on time to the right places. Jedd Fisch is very similar. He's put together offenses that work everywhere he's been. They're always really good passing attacks. He does a great job with quarterbacks. But again, you talk what he needs to be successful as a quarterback who can operate his offense. And again, that's what Will Rogers gives.
That's a really good point. Like you look at Jedd Fisch and the concepts that they want to run on offense, like very similar concepts to what Will Rogers was doing with Mike Leach during his time at Mississippi State. So you talk about a fit. Like I think this one fits like a glove. And I think that was part of Jedd Fisch's selling point is, hey, we've seen you do it in Mike Leach's offense. We think you can do it for this Washington offense heading into 2024. And to kind of take a bird's eye view of where this program is going, I think, one, this is massive to show that Jedd Fisch can recruit at Washington. Because at the end of the day, Will Rogers was one of the more sought-after quarterbacks in the transfer portal.
And also at this point, he's the last guy. So any team that still kind of needs one or thinks they need one, no doubt they're probably making their overtures or at least putting the feelers out. And I know whatever people like to say about how teams are, but I think anybody who needed a quarterback, this was kind of the last guy.
And I'm telling you right now, Will Rogers makes a lot of teams across the Power 5 better. And so for Jedd Fisch to reach out to Will Rogers and kind of I mean, get him to believe in this program, believe what he can do for Washington heading into 2024 is absolutely massive. And you take a look at, I mean, what Jedd Fisch has been doing the last couple of days. Again, Jedd Fisch still moving into his office in Washington, right? He is still getting his feet wet in this program, a lot of moving parts. He's been able to against reporter, right? Starting with true freshman in that 2024 class, Damon Williams. We talked about him Sunday night. This is a quarterback that was sought after, was committed to Ole Miss for a previous time, was obviously committed with Arizona, getting him to come to Washington. Dynamic playmaker. Jonah Coleman, I think, steps foot in the Big Ten in 2024 and is immediately one of the best running backs in the conference. This is a guy that averaged almost 7 yards per carry at Arizona last year, 5 yards per carry after contact. I mean, he was averaging more yards after contact than a lot of running backs were averaging per carry. That is a difference maker at the running back position. You get Jordan Shaw, one of the more coveted cornerbacks in that 2024 class. Jedd Fisch is just starting to cook. And I think Will Rogers, getting him back committed to this program, it starts making it a lot easier to start selling this program to other wide receivers in the transfer portal. And
but
right,
doesn't also make you think a little bit that their roster might not be in as bad a shape as people think. And
agreed.
There's no doubt there's going to be a level of like Washington's probably need to punch a little bit above their weight from a talent perspective, just given, I mean, what Kalen DeBoer left him in the way he left, but also the fact that Washington was just going to lose a lot of really good players to the draft because that's kind of where they were at that point. A lot of transfers, a lot of older guys. They were the producers. So either way, they were going to kind of have to reload it a little bit. But I do think Will Rogers isn't sticking around if he's seeing like a barren wasteland of a team that's going to go 2-10. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are going to think that. But again, you talk about Jedd Fisch. He's constantly punched above his weight at a school like Arizona. And Will Rogers, frankly, did too at Mississippi State, where they were probably the least talented team in the SEC year in and year out, and they always could score points.
I think that's a phenomenal point. Like, you know how this recruiting pitch went, right? Will Rogers and Jedd Fisch sit down and say, I mean, what is Will Rogers looking for at his last stop in college football? I mean, he's got 1 year of eligibility left. He needs to win now. He needs to produce now. He wants to elevate his NFL draft stock, and he wants to win. And so Jedd Fisch and him have this conversation, and Jedd Fisch is selling him on, hey, this is a team that in 2024, you can win, you can produce at a very high level. And so Will Rogers, looking at this team, he could have gone to a lot of other places. And so the fact that he's buying into this program, I think, is absolutely massive for the 2024 year. And Dill, I think it gets so much easier to start selling some more talent in the transfer portal, right? Specifically on the offensive side of the football, right? When you're a wide receiver in the transfer portal, you want to know that you're going to, one, an offense that's going to allow you to produce. Jedd Fisch, proven offense that can do that. But more importantly, who's going to be throwing me the football? I mean, 2 hours ago, that question was massively up in the air for the Washington Huskies. That answer, the Will Rogers answers the question. And so you're going to see, one, there's still a lot of wide receivers who are talented in the transfer portal right now. Maybe we'll do a separate episode looking at that. But more importantly, you're going to see wide receivers continue to trickle in the portal, right? There's a whole second portal window that's going to start in March. And so I think having Will Rogers locked into this program makes it a lot easier to start selling these wide receivers that this is an offense that you can win a lot of games at, and you can produce a lot. So I'm really excited. I think Will Rogers is a massive starting point and kind of springboard for Jedd Fisch to continue to build this roster heading into 2024 through the portal.
I think it's a little short-sighted even to think it's only wide receivers you can sell, because at the end of the day, most transfers are going to a place, A, they want to play, but B, they want to win. And if you are one of those better players in that portal, you don't want to go to a school that you're going to win 3 or 4 games, because at the end of the day, that doesn't really help anyone. If you have a quarterback, you can win games. I think it just makes this program more attractive to everybody. Wide receivers, obviously, but also anybody who wants to come win at a premier program. Let's call it what it is. Washington's right up there with anyone. They're in the Big Ten now. I mean, this is a place, if you can win and be successful, it helps your career.
Yeah, 100% agree. This is obviously getting your starting quarterback for 2024 is massive, but more importantly, I think this kind of gets the ball rolling for Jedd Fisch during his tenure at Washington. Massive get. We'll continue to update you guys as Washington Jedd Fisch continue to do work in the portal. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas, and we'll talk to y'all later.